Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Just Believe podcast. I'm your host, Herbie Mack, and today I have the pleasure to not only speak to this lovely young lady, but actually gain some knowledge. And I love what she's doing. And this lovely young lady is Gwen Downing. How are you doing today? Oh, before we even start with that, I want to let you know she's a LPC. And I love it because I always talk about bringing on the pros and breaking down a conversation of stigma, breaking it down, right? Let's get into the mental health. But not only do I love that, I love what she did with that. She created her own organization called Connect All. Gwen, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, and thank you so much for having me, Herbie. So good to see you.
Likewise, it's great to see you once again. Actually, let's start with the journey. What got you into like the mental health field? What made you say, let me help others?
Wow. So that was kind of an interesting story. I actually, growing up, really thought I would end up being a doctor, that I would be a pediatrician. And it was, I was reading books, and it was actually St. Jude's. And St. Jude's had some stories about children going through cancer treatment. And this was while I was still in high school. And and they talked about the importance of visualization and different mental health practices for treatment, and how it totally helped these children make it through the medical procedures they needed to go through for their cancer treatments. And so I was like, okay, I need to understand psychology if I'm going to be a doctor. Like, and that was just from reading stories. And so then when I got into college, plan was still pre-med. My first degree was in biology, but I minored in psych. And it just kind of, through a winding journey, ended up that was the direction I went instead of medical.
I love it. I love it. You just went down a rabbit hole and was like, you know what? I actually like this. I like this more. No, that's great. Um, so now that you did that, what made you decide to start your own organization?
So my background is in mental health and behavioral health, and I actually worked for the Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services. I live in Oklahoma, and it was our state department. I worked for them for over 17 years. And most of the time I was there, I was over trauma informed services for children and adults, so across the life spectrum. And so that's kind of my professional background. But what led me to Connect All is a little different. And I've started this year sharing a little bit about that, and not a lot, but a little bit. One, to give people a little context, I'm neuroatypical, and I'm coping with that. And and even with my professional background and being surrounded by the professionals I was surrounded by, I truly didn't understand how my brain functioning differently affected me. And that doesn't tell you why I started this. It just gives you a little context about who I am as a person, and that things process a little differently in my brain than some people's. Um, so then back in 2017, I started going through some life experiences, and they were things that I couldn't find answers for. And you know, I am someone who, at that time in my life, I had all these connections. I had national connections, all these things, and so it really sent me searching for answers for myself, and for someone I'm attached to, and just for every child and innocent. That the more I was looking for these answers, the more I realized how things weren't what they should be in the world. And I was like, okay, what do you do about it then? And so while I'm still searching for some of those answers, that led me to forming Connect All, because I'm like, here's what I can do. And so that's a little bit of the journey behind that.
You know, I love what you just said about how you looked at things from a bigger perspective of like, man, it's not just affecting me, but it's affecting someone that I don't know. But how can I help that other person? And that That, that's going to lead me to ask this question. When you was going through this in 2017, was it something that you discovered about like the foundation of your own foundation? Like, man, this is weak. Like, I have to help rebuild my foundation, but not only help rebuild my foundation, but if I participate in others, it can like, pretty much showing them how to do it. Like it's something like for example, I play basketball, so it was like my coach would, hey, you know how to like lay up great with your right hand. This person doesn't. Can you teach him how to do it at the same time as he teach you how to lay up with your left? So is it something like that helped you along this journey?
Um, in different ways, yes. It was, sometimes people have these very linear journeys. Like I started out with this goal and went from A to B. That was not how this worked. This was because of everything going on. It was I'd learned this part here, then learn this part here, and I'm searching for answers. And so it was like this back and forth of things on realizing things about myself and realizing things about the world. And and then putting all of that together. And so yes, there was a lot of self-understanding, but also it brought me into awareness about the world around me hadn't had before. And so then um, it was both. I'm trying to find the right words. It was both that it was the best thing to do for me and who I'm attached to, and also the right thing to do because I am a person of goodness and you want to create. And so for me, it's not just this is the best thing for me, it was also this is the best thing because of that goodness in me of wanting to help and wanting to make sure um, I have two stated goals or two stated motivations. And the second one I have is that I always want to positively and never negatively tell every child and innocent, here's what I was doing the moment you needed me. And so, yeah, that motivation's very strong in me of I have to get this to people because there's so much needless suffering we don't need,
Yes.
or so much needless suffering we don't have to have.
Yes. No, I agree. I agree. Let's talk about Connect All. Can we talk about the like what is it for people that don't know? Let's break it down for them.
So it's an actual global initiative, even though it's starting out, grassroots. And it is how we can address everything we can for us all to have the most safety and hopeful possibilities. And that sounds very vague or abstract, but I mean that as practical as knowing you need to brush your teeth and get sleep and nutrition. Um, and and so that's the initiative is how can we all have the most safety and hopeful possibilities. And to achieve that, I put together a simple daily framework everyone can use. And it's a self-care framework that helps us globally. It helps me do the best I can as a person, but then helps us globally achieve what we need to achieve.
I like that. Well, would you like to break it down and show us about the self care? Because I'm all about self care.
Absolutely. Um, is it okay if I share a little bit about a foundation for it first?
Oh yes, yes. Let's get into it.
Yeah. So, I talked about learning about the world as I was going through my own journey here. And one of the things I wasn't taught and really understood was how things are so interdependent in this world. And like even what you and I are doing right now, we didn't create the hardware, the software, we aren't channeling electricity to ourselves. Like we're dependent on so much to even have this moment, right?
Yes.
And so, the air we breathe, we're dependent on we're dependent on people, we're dependent on the land. And then outside of this concept of interdependence, there's this even greater thing of how we're all interconnected. And so maybe something isn't dependent, but it's still a cause and effect. And so with understanding that interconnection and learning that, there was one key point I kind of bring people to. is that every single moment, what you're doing and I'm doing impacts our and others' safety everywhere. So what I'm doing impacts you, and what you're doing impacts me because of how we are globally connected. And so, um, even though I do care about people all around the world, even if I didn't, I would still need to do the right thing by them because their lives impact mine as my life impacts theirs. And so that understanding of interconnection is one of the foundations for getting into self-care, because a lot of times people don't even have that part of understanding. I didn't, and that's me being very transparent and humble. But like what we're doing impacts a child in Pakistan. The child in Pakistan impacts the retiree in Sweden. The retiree in Sweden is impacting the single mom in Chile, and just globally how interconnected our lives are, and not just as people, but also with our environment, with animals, and all of our lives, all of life.
No,
So
I agree with that. Yeah, it's one of the things I learned during my healing journey, right? You when you're trying to recover from depression or just any mental health challenge, it's you start realizing, man, my life is not only just affecting me, but it's affecting others and other people's lives like I'm affected by. And what can I do, as you said, to be a better person? Let me recycle more. Let me actually take care of myself, but not just only myself. Let me actually take care of like the garden, the ground. Let me garden some plants, or let me what do you call that? Compost,
right,
right? Like even now, like my wife and I, the whole family in this house, we compost. Like every probably like every other day, we have to like, oh hey, dig a hole, but it helps out so much. Like now we start to see the plants thrive. Before they wasn't thriving like that, and I noticed like, man, the decisions that we make affects everything. So I love that.
absolutely. And someday I want to have the resource to have a video to show people like legitimately how the very smallest decision you and I are making is so tied together. And even though you and I are states away from each other, I know every moment. You mentioned your family. I know every moment I'm accountable to your family, and that my life impacts them, and your life is impacting mine. And so I need to make sure you have all that you need. Um, and and so for sometimes when people, and some people genuinely can't, they may have a biological reason, they may not emotionally or mentally um, care, using that word, but they can still logically know this is why this is so important, because even if all I do is care about myself, our lives are so interconnected. I have to make sure the other person has what they need. um, so yeah, so that was one of the foundational pieces that I think, without that, sometimes people lose parts of the why this is important.
Yes, no, seriously, it is. And then after that, like when I started paying attention to the foundation and how structure does matter. you know, I have that type of personality that's like, hey, let's go. I'm a Sagittarius, so we're known for like free spirits. But then, like in some things in life, you have to have structure. And the thing that I realized that I needed structure with and understanding how to accept this was self care. And they talk about self care, and self care is so it's something that obviously I'm doing a series on breaking it down because people think self care is just a spa day, shopping, and it's more than that. You
Oh,
know,
yeah.
it's not. Oh, yes, you can do that. That can be part of your self care, but actually, to me, self care is understanding I'm not feeling good mentally.
Right.
The awareness of hey, what can I do to go back to the Herbie that everyone loves, but not just everyone, but the Herbie that I love, and doing things as journaling, uh, exercising, walking, eating better, right? Because you notice, hey, you can have a whole piece of pie, but like after you finish the pizza, it's like, oh man, I don't feel so good. So, but like taking care of my body, but then also doing other things that make me happy, as far as like going to the beach, relaxing, embracing the sun and the sand and the water. So stuff like that is the things that was helping me. But then you came up with this amazing idea, and applause to you for simplifying this and making it a daily reminder, a easy daily reminder too.
Thank you. Well, and you mentioned foundation. So right before I tell you the framework, there's one other foundation I'd like to mention.
Sure.
And so I talk about how logic and connection are foundational. And people are like, okay, but what does that mean? And if we did a cross analysis of everything we need to address and want to address, from child abuse, all the different forms of violence, our environmental issues, all the way people don't see each other as people, ageism, ableism, the stigma with mental health, right? All of those different things. And if we looked at the hopeful possibilities we need that aren't being done the way we need them to, if we looked at all of those and we did a cross analysis and a root factor analysis and said, okay, what do they all have in common? What we find is this lack of logic and connection that's either the direct reason they're happening or the reason we aren't addressing them the best way we could. And so let me say what I mean by those words. So logic is the skill set of being able to think things all the way through and consider all the possibilities. And so many times people think, well, of course I'm logical. Of course I know how to think. Well, okay, but what's your standard for that? What's the measure for that? How do you know you're being logical? And so one of the things this teaches is how do we have a standard so that we can check ourselves and go, oh, okay. I even forgot that was a principle of thinking things through. I need to go back to that. And that's something that's not taught. We don't teach logical thinking overall. And that's not just based on education level. There are people with very advanced degrees that still don't go through.
Yeah, it's on a life level, like a regular life level. Yeah,
Right.
your parents or your guardian may not taught you that because they may not know.
Exactly. And so then the other part is connection. And I break that down to two parts. That internal connection, like you said, how do I know what makes me work? So when I talk about internal connection, that's about valuing myself, knowing how I function, and being able to stay self aware to that. Because without that internal connection, I could get totally veered off course and not even know what's going on, right? But again, we don't teach that. We don't teach people how your thoughts, your feelings, your behaviors, your physiology go together, how what may impede you being able to be connected to yourself, and how to stay self-aware. That's a skill set. That takes some, and that can take some work. Um, I mentioned I cope with being neuroatypical. So I have to learn that I function differently than other people too. So there's that self-awareness of here's how my brain works, and this is how I need to operate versus how someone else may need to operate. Um, and then the second part of connection is external connection. And that's why and how to interact with other life. And again, those are skill sets. And so it's kind of interesting because if we looked at all the things we worry about, all the things we need to address, like child abuse and racism, and it's all those different pieces. It's kind of like if we looked at the world as our body, as an analogy, kind of like I have all these wounds on my body and I'm trying to treat them all separately. And I haven't stopped and gone, wait a minute, this body needs sleep and nutrition. And if I do that first and start with that, and then look how the treatments go together. So I get food and nutrition, then look how the treatments go together, then I can heal the body much quicker. And it can operate the way it needs to much quicker. And so with the self-care model, when I explain it, everything starts from foundation up. So instead of looking at, well, Gwen, I can't take on 17 different things that matter in my life.
It's too much.
It's too much. It's like, you don't start there, start here, and we work our way up. And actually, that makes us more effective overall. And so whether I'm talking to people about advocacy or whether I'm talking about any issue you bring up, I'm going to say, start at the foundation. And this gives us greater, it's actually exponential, and then how everything's impacted. Where right now we have all of this time and resources and efforts for all these different things, and people don't have a foundation to put them on. So logic and connection is absolutely foundational to our lives and to creating the world we need.
I love it. I love it. No, it's simple. I always talk about the foundation. It's something key. You know, it's one of the things when you buy a house that no one really worries about until the house collapse, right? And you're like, oh man, what happened? And you have that person that comes in, oh, the foundation wasn't set right, and it's just like we have to view our our bodies as like a house or a temple. If that foundation is off, then how can it be good to say the least? How can you be good? And that led to me. Sorry, I get tongue twisted here. I'm getting so excited. But that led to me understanding some of the things that I have to work on, some of the areas to improve on. Right. I don't think anybody has a weakness. I think it's just room for improvement.
And that takes us back to, just like people think they're logical, how do I know there's some of those things I need to work on with internal connection and external connection? And so that's why those are foundational to this self-care model, for everyone, is us having that checklist.
No, no, definitely agree with that. Yes. But go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that,
Uh,
yeah.
no, but it is key to understand how can I be logical, right? For me, it was certain things that I had to do, right? Like let's say finance, right? If I had $100 in my pocket, I'm not gonna sit there and say, oh hey, let me just blow $100 on some sneakers, knowing that I had a water bill due or electric bill. It's like, oh, let me take care of that. The sneakers can wait. And like breaking down steps like that was helping me be logical. But then understanding, like for example, my friends went to hang out and party and go to the club. And I know for me, oh yeah, I'll feel good in the moment. But when I started drinking, that Incredible Hulk character would come out. And I was like, that's not logical for me to set myself up for that. And then learning the power of no and telling and being comfortable, like, no. And then when they say why, you just no, because no is a complete sentence. But no, this great conversation. I'm learning so much from this, and I'm hoping the audience is learning as well.
Oh, and that's one of the things is the learning part is, you know, um, with my background in mental health and behavioral health, when I started really paying attention, I'm like, why do we wait till people are in therapy to start teaching you how we're connected? And that's not in all cases, but in a lot of cases. Whereas if we knew that before, we wouldn't a lot of times have some of the struggles we have. Um, and and that's not that's not putting anything on the person. That's a society thing
Yeah.
that we don't teach that from groundwork up. Um, but yeah, whether we're looking at what what is seems up close or our global issues, are all linked together and have this common foundation. And when I'm talking to people that do advocacy work, and one of the components of, when we say it here in a second, I know we've got to get to it,
Yeah.
um, get to the model, is that until we start from the ground up, the world isn't going to change. Like, you will hear, and it's in our language, we say things like, or in some people's language, I don't use generalizations. You'll hear people say things like, well, they're illogical, they're biased, they don't care. Okay, why? Why? Do they understand how we're interconnected? Has anyone given them the logic skills? Has anyone gone through how to be internally connected and why and how to be externally connected? Do they even have that foundation? You know, and that's why I think the foundational part of this is so important, because without that, people may not even care. And the not caring thing, again, leaving out whether you can emotionally care or not, and or mentally feel that way. Um, some people are like, they may be struggling caring about themselves, right? But they would never want to cause anyone else harm. And so I'm like, okay, then you still need to do this because your life is so tied to theirs. And this is why all these actions matter. Um, and so, you meet people where they're at to get them to, why is this important? And so it's like, well, I don't like anything, but I want to be okay. Okay. So this is why it's important to you. Or I am struggling with myself, but I would never want to hurt other life. Okay. Then this is why it's important to you. Or I'm okay with taking care of myself, but I also care about others. And I have people in my life I care about and attached to. And this is why it's important to you. And that's what was really interesting when I started learning this was it took out the whole, when people would say, well, what if someone cares or doesn't care? Like it doesn't matter. Because of how everything is interconnected, the same thing applies to everyone, no matter where they are in the array of that emotional or mental feelings about things.
No, I love it. I love it. Before we wrap this up,
I'll go over.
yeah. And after you go with that, there's a question I want to ask you. But go ahead.
Okay. Well, go ahead and ask the question.
No.
I thought you were going to wrap up.
No. Yeah, we do have to get ready to wrap up, but the question is not going to be that deep. It's very simple. So
Okay.
no, go ahead. Yeah, you can break down the model.
So just quickly, and I go in depth when we go through this and everything and how to use it. And I kind of use my hand to illustrate it. I'll try to hold it up where you can see. So knowing that every moment of our life matters, that I know every moment I need to be doing the best thing I can for myself and for who I'm attached to have the most safety and hope, right? So how in the world do I make that decision? Like, where do I start with that? And so the filters are decision-making thing that everything's going to go through. So in the filter, we have logic and connection. I'm working on those. Is everything going to the goal, being logical and connected for the most safety and hope? And am I holding the value of every moment? And I really get into that. So that's my filter. And again, this is just a quick overview. And then there's 5 things we try to do every day. The first one's what we think of as basic self-care. That's the hygiene, exercise, nutrition, make sure my needs are met. And this is where I'm going to work on my own logic and connection if I need to, right? Then the second one is I have to do things to take care of my environment. The third one is doing one thing a day to be prepared. And I have it broken down into simple little actions. It's either find an item, and so you don't have to buy anything. It may just be finding something. It may be making one action, like printing off information you need if there's an emergency and you need to have that information. It may be learning something, like watching a 3 to 5 minute video while you're having your lunch break on, here's a skill I don't know on how to put out a fire, how to do first aid or something like that, but doing one thing a day to be prepared. The fourth one is being informed and understanding more. So again, taking a little time each day to understand our world so we have it the way we need it. And then we still have to learn more. And then the last one is the one where we change the world, which changes our lives. And that is advocating. And that is every single day I do something to advocate to help someone else become aware and involved to the need for this logic and connection foundation globally. Because that's where change really starts. That is where we are going to see change happen and happen exponentially, where we don't have all the initiatives and all the issues, but we're giving people the foundation. We're layering things in, how they're interconnected as they go up, so that by the time you get out to the nuances of the issues, we've already hit most of it. So that's the simple overview. Then I talk about like how they sometimes go together. So for example, like doing something to take care of the environment, maybe my prep for the day. Instead of throwing a can away, I may use that can to be my candle holder in the next power outage. And then what to do if they conflict, like, because we all have days that life happens. So then how do we prioritize, but not let things go, but keep them in balance throughout the days coming up? And so that's kind of the basic overview.
No, I love it. Simple and easy. The question that I have, if someone's listening to this episode and they want to get involved, how can they?
Right now, the easiest way is to go to the website. It's connectall.online. It is new. I just got it up in December, so it is a work in progress. But I am, as I'm doing trainings, releasing the videos on them. There's guides on there. There's how to get involved. You can contact me. Um, so it's a place to go there. And then also for people needing, outside of getting involved and understanding this, it also has a resource tab on there if you need help. So like if you're needing emergency numbers, some coping skills, it has a paper version you can print off where you also put down your own local things and apps that help you or coping skills that help you. It's not fancy, but it's there if anyone needs it. And I always want to mention that because sometimes people are like, I don't even know how to Google. And so it's at least going to give you a good start.
Perfect. If you had somebody that was on the fence, that was like, man, this sounds good, but I don't know if it's for me, or just worried about like, should I do it or should I not? What would you tell them?
Sorry, I had like all these thoughts in my head at once. So it's like,
No, it's perfectly fine.
Get it to succinct. I can't find one better option. If it had existed out there, I wouldn't recreate it. I don't know anything else that looks at the world from the foundation up. And so I know for the most safety and hope, if I want that, I have to do this. It is that foundational. It is the only thing I know that incorporates all our major issues into a simple daily framework. It is the only thing I know that starts from the foundation, which I already said that, but it is important. And so it kind of comes down to this choice of, yeah, I could do that. Well, then, do you want to take care of yourself or not? And if you don't want to take care of yourself, we want to get you there, but also, do you want to be injuring others? Because your life may be injuring others and you don't know it. And I think that's the thing is this framework helps bring awareness. One of the things I actually have been teaching with it is ethics for people who have codes of ethics. And so far, I haven't found a code of ethics it doesn't line up with as far as in the helping professions. And that, what if we are, even if it's unintentional, because we aren't aware, sorry, now my turn to slow down. If we're in a helping profession, how am I supposed to answer someone if there's injury that I could have prevented and didn't? Or if I'm contributing to injury that could have been prevented, and so there's ethical issues involved in this that if we can do things better and don't, right?
Yeah, no, this is great. No, I love it. And
so there's a lot of, so there's just the basic truth of, it's kind of like saying, well, I can eat healthy or not eat healthy. Okay. You can choose not to, but what does that do to you? But then also, what could your life be doing to somebody else?
Yeah,
and
perfect.
So just keeping it simple.
No, that's perfect. Please, before we go, obviously, tell everybody where to not only find you, but find Connect All.
The website has all my social media links on it. So I am new at this. I am learning all of that part, but I do. I have the YouTube. I have a Facebook group, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So
I got you. I'm gonna put them in the description. I got you. I got you. And it is connectall.online.
Yes.
There we go. See, I got you. I got you. But ladies and gentlemen, this was an episode of the Just Believe podcast. Once again, that was Gwen Downing with her amazing view, not only of life, but also connecting all. Until then, we see you next time.